Welcome to the third session of the People's Parliament, a platform where Ugandans get to air out their views and opinions on issues and policies of national importance. Agnes Nandutu, the Speaker of the People's Parliament, presides. Madam Speaker, I propose that we discuss the topic of gender-based violence. How do we put a stop to gender-based violence?
Those in favor, aye. To the contrary, no?
Aye.
Ayes have it. This is People's Parliament, the only platform that gives you opportunity to speak out and air out issues that affect your everyday life. Tonight, we are discussing a very important topic, gender-based violence. How has it affected you? Has it affected your family members? Has it affected the country? We are asking, how can we put a stop to this very horrifying situation? Honorable members, let's get the ball rolling. Yes, honorable member, how can we put a stop to gender-based violence in our country?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Tina Musuya, and I represent the community from Mawanda Road. Gender-based violence is all those controlling behaviors that are directed mainly towards women, aimed at controlling them, and it's really premised in the gender inequality. So when we talk about gender-based violence, I would like the House to pay attention to it, because right now it's at epidemic levels. I'm very sure members of the House, some of them will come out with statistics. But the reason I say it's at epidemic levels, because 1 in every 3 women globally has experienced a form of gender-based violence, maybe from an intimate partner or from the community. As if that's not enough.
But do you think the authorities within our communities are doing enough to ensure that people are protected from this vice?
Now, Madam Speaker, that's a very good question. The problem is many people have normalized all these forms of abuse, most especially towards women. When they see them happen, they'll tell you, this is our tradition. They say this is love. They say it's their problem. The reason it is mushrooming like this is because people accept it, and they are silent to the extent that they don't report. And then because many people have normalized it, even when it's reported, the officers who are supposed, most times who are supposed to enforce the law, think it's a normal behavior. They'll say, oh, this is tradition, go back home. And even sometimes when we members of Parliament are making laws, we fear even to handle certain very specific things that we think, oh, this is too controversial, it's going to break families.
The people who are supposed to protect us, people who are supposed to love us, are the people who kill their wives, beat their children to death. What do you think goes on in the minds of these people, Honorable Member?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm Dr. Margaret Nampija, and I come from Entebbe. And responding to your question, the people who should be protecting us, our husbands, our very intimate partners, are the ones who harm us. It's not surprising, but your best friend with whom you share a house, a room, a bed, can kill you in the form of domestic violence. It's really a big problem, and we've lost many lives. Many are not able to speak about it because they've gone already. But what you can do about it is, I think it's got to be a multidisciplinary approach. We need the government, we need the law to be enforced. I mean, we have the bills, but they should be enforced. The police should do their work. As in, if someone is found guilty of harming their wives, beating them or battering them, they should be handled as the law says. But a lot of the time we find that many people get away without being punished. Many cases don't get to the law because a bit of it is because the victims don't know their right. The victims think it's embarrassing to go and talk about it. For example, to go to police and say, my husband has been battering me. They feel it takes away from your prestige.
But what do you think goes on in the minds of these people?
I think it has to do with, one, the upbringing. If you work it backwards, probably those are the people who bullied their siblings, who went to schools where etiquette and behavior were not really given priority, or people who just take others for granted. People who have a misconduct in society. You know, when you're an adult, you're expected to behave, to conform with the norms of society. But a lot of those guys, much of it is upbringing, but also a lot of complexes. For example, many of the women have said...
Have a minute to wind up, Honorable Member.
When I got a better job, my husband started looking at me like an enemy, a rival, and they were like, I can't control this woman anymore. So they use a stick. They use battering as a way of...
Which is very bad. Very bad. And Honorable Member has talked about the laws that have already in place. Honorable Member, you were a member of Parliament. You are supposed to legislate to ensure that the people are safe. What has Parliament done? And if you have done something, what has happened?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my name is Betty Amongi.
You're welcome to People's Parliament.
Thank you. And I speak on behalf of our women parliamentarians. And yes, to state that the Domestic Violence Act came into force in 2010. And our focus now is to ensure that we look at the progress, what progress has been made, and what is the implementation, and how is the implementation being effected.
But those are many years down the road, Honorable Member.
Yes.
Are we following up the laws that we have passed in Parliament to ensure that they are implemented by government?
Unfortunately, as members of Parliament, our work is to sensitize, and we have moved to the community. We have engaged with the police. We have engaged with the justice, law and order sector to ensure that the implementation is being done. Unfortunately, the problem is mostly with the community. Most of the people who are supposed to report the cases are not reporting the cases. That is very unfortunate. Those that are reported are negotiated out of court and settled outside court. So most of the police and the justice and law and order sector are frustrated by communities settling cases out of court. The police starts the case, they want to try the case, then the family members come and say the person who has been defiled, you know, is now...
what do you think should be done in such circumstances?
I think one is that we should be able to build the capacity of the victims to make sure that the victim is not capable of pulling the cases out of court. To do this, we need to focus on putting up economic activity for the victims and putting up shelters for the victims. Because if the victim is still staying with the perpetrators, or the victim is still staying with the family members who look at the victim, especially the girl, as somebody who should be married off, then they will descend on the victim, convince the victim to pull out the cases. And most importantly, also to work with the police to make sure that cases are concluded. Because if you look at the statistics, the cases that are reported are very high, but the cases that are tried are sometimes less than 20% of the cases reported.
I want to provide information to the previous speaker that as a member of Parliament, her principal role is to oversee the implementation of the law. And therefore, I do not agree, and I would not expect to find her in our constituency doing sensitization on GBV, but to see that all the laws that have been passed are implemented.
Thank you.
Going to your question, I also want to first provide information to the House.
Is that true, Honourable Member?
Honourable Speaker, I think we need to take into account the civic competence of our population and our representative role. We cannot run away from our role of representing the communities that cannot handle the laws and run to police and continue telling our community as they're being battered that wait for the implementations of the law.
So you have to sensitize
We
them.
have to do both.
They also have the responsibility of sensitizing their communities who voted them
Madam
in Parliament.
Speaker,
but you can continue with your
yes,
point.
as I continue, Madam Speaker, Uganda is endowed with a number of civil society organizations which we think can take lead in that, and then we see the members concentrating on their role. However, Honorable Madam Speaker, you asked me why are the men battering their wives?
Exactly.
I want to begin from a note that not all men are battering their spouses. We have very, very good men. And we should start from that angle. And therefore, we know that this is not a natural practice because we have positive men who are not beating their spouses. We are living in a society where gender-based violence has been institutionalized, so structured within all our systems. We have lived and believed in the gender-based violence in an intergenerational lineage. And therefore, for us to put a stop on to gender-based violence, the duty is within our hands, honorable members of this House. Each one of us has a duty to do. We have to break away the system that condones and supports the gender-based violence. And one of the things we have got to do is to make our colleagues, to make our friends, to make our family members, to make everyone in our community, first of all, to get uncomfortable with the gender-based violence. Interacting with the many survivors and the perpetrators, some of them will tell you, I did not know that what I'm doing is hurting the other. Leave alone the physical...
When you are raising a stick against me, a machete against me, and you think it will not hurt me?
Madam Speaker, they will tell you, I grew up seeing my father doing this, and I believe this is the way to go.
You also believe this so?
I said not all men are the same, Madam Speaker. And I have also wanted to emphasize that we have got to create that uncomfort among our people to understand that violence against women or gender-based violence has got negative implications, not only on the side of the survivor, but also on the government. We know that the cost of gender-based violence is very high onto our government, and we are the taxpayers, so we pay for it. Whether you use violence or not, you pay the cost. Besides, we have to create a culture that says no to gender-based violence. Right away from childhood, preparing our children to grow up knowing that a woman, a girl must be respected with all the dignity of a human being, just as a boy or a man is respected.
Okay.
The men need to see this, that there is a lot that we benefit from non-violent relationships.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Let's go for a short break. But when we come back, we shall consider the role of cultural beliefs. Take, for example, the genital mutilation in Kapchorwa, the pride price. And those women who think they should be beaten by their husbands for them to be loved. Who informs them? Where do they get such information? Welcome back. This is post-parliament. When we left, we want to talk about the cultural beliefs. The genital mutilation in Kapchorwa, the pride price. Do you think such things are still important? Because these are the things that fuel gender-based violence. What has happened?
Well, I can see, Madam Speaker, and the whole House, that Uganda is a signatory to many conventions, international, regional, and continental. However, because government is accountable, Parliament is accountable, the duty of accountability has been snatched from Parliament by institutions that are deemed unaccountable.
What are those institutions?
Religious institutions and cultural institutions. They are not questioned. And people tell members of Parliament they should heed their religious leaders. The same communities that want legislations are the ones that want Parliament to heed to the cultural norms and to the religious norms. That is hindering progress. When we say there are layers of concealment, these act as layers of concealment for progress. These are people who come out and say Parliament is now going to break up homes. Parliament is going to destroy culture. No wonder
where there is accountability, there is less fusion of state and religion. In Uganda, there is a tendency to fuse religion and state. So I would want to say that unless we are brave enough as a country to say religion should stop somewhere and laws should take effect. After all, God is waiting for perpetrators in heaven. But
is that enough? They should be punished.
Is waiting for perpetrators in heaven, so the religious institutions should wait for that docket.
But you know, the law was passed in Parliament to stop genital mutilation.
Yeah. Now,
have you followed up the implementation? Because it is the role of Parliament to do that.
As Uganda Women Parliamentary Association, my chair has just been here, we followed up to all these places. And unfortunately, members of Parliament from these cultures are being suffocated and harassed over this.
Unfortunately.
And when you come out, God forbid for a woman to be the advocate. Women actually, women leaders, women politicians, women members of Parliament are the most harassed. And that is why our colleagues, the male counterparts, go and clap and say, look at the women you elected. They are breaking culture. So we have to differentiate between...
I remember the domestic violence bill, but Honourable Member, we shall continue from there. Yes, Honourable, what is your take on that?
Well, first of all, I need to introduce myself, Honourable Speaker. My name is Leandro Komakech. I'm a senior researcher at the School of Law, Refugee Law Project. In response to my colleague, I think one thing we need to note as men, I speak as a very well brought up man.
Who has never harassed his wife?
Not at all.
Go ahead.
I think the most important thing that we lose here is about understanding how constructive are the gender roles, to the extent that there are those sexes that believe that the other ones are inferior. And I think this is very wrong.
And those are the men who believe women are inferior.
This is very wrong as far as we need to look at this in context of the contemporary world today. I believe the issue of gender-based violence should be towards being minimized, given the level of education society has gone through, and given the experience we have in Uganda. I think, and many of the laws that do exist, we have in place already the affirmative action that started a long time ago, that worked very well towards bringing up the voices of women who are actually not at all to even hold this microphone. This affirmative action has benefited us in this country to the extent of the girl child having capacity to engage normally. And I believe this is the way to go, because today we should now be shifting as a way of actually sorting out these problems from affirmative action or equality before the law to substantive equality before the law. That means that the political economy of our society needs to be structured in such a way that the women empowerment economically should be the engine of bringing about this substantive equality.
That's good.
If you have a person who wallows in poverty, there is no way we are going to talk of a very balanced gender roles. But if you have a situation where society is balanced in terms of livelihood, then I think in terms of constructive engagement, we shall have our mothers, our sisters, just at equal par in providing what is necessary for society. And this is one thing that we need to begin to look at.
Wind up, Honourable Member, wind up.
And secondly, I need to respond in terms of how do we move from here? I think let's look at the international instruments that are very clear on the issues of response to survivors and response to perpetrators. Because these are two fundamental in terms of response. To survivors, I think there is very great need to work with them in society. Two, to look at those families that are affected. We have produced dictators in Africa because of bringing children in wrong ways. So we need to focus.
Yes, Honourable Members, we shall come to those suggestions at the time you are winding up.
Okay, thank you.
Honourable Member, Pride Price is one of the contributors, because men think that because they have paid their cows, their goats, they have given in their money, they have carried their, they carry bibo, enyanya, tomatoes and nakati, therefore they should beat you up and they should make you their worker in the house.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for that question. My name is Wite Lydia from Platform for Labour Action, a civil society organization. On the issue of bride price, Madam Speaker, we see us as women, we look at bride price as something that makes us to look like properties to the men. They can toss around and hurt at any point in life.
Why do you think you should be paid?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Personally, I wouldn't allow that, and nobody's going to pay bride price for me. But I'd like to speak of the culture that actually fuels this practice. A lot of women in the village actually only see value in themselves when bride price is paid for them. And when they bear, boy children, someone says, well, 6 cows have been asked for me, and so now I'm an honorable person. And women for whom nothing is paid, they're looked down upon. But this is not to cherish the culture.
Madam Speaker, men from the region where I come from, the East, they say, I'm just going to say, and I will translate it directly into English. I bought shoes to avoid thorns. I bought shoes to avoid thorns. So they say, when we pay bride price, I have bought you, therefore, I can use you as my shoe, I can use you as my chair, I can use you as anything that I want to. Madam Speaker, as my colleague noted, that the culture where we are coming from is going to dictate that bride price be brought. Even if you are a girl, you see no value in it, because at the end of the day, it's just going to make you a subject to the other party. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. When we talk about domestic violence, when we talk about men battering their wives, battering their children, even teachers battering the pupils in the schools, people think it is the talk of the town. But can we have some information from somebody who has been battered by the one she loves most? Yes, doctor. Can you give these people information such that they believe that really there is horrifying situation in the society?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that, okay, one of the members said, many of the guys batter their wives because they don't know what they are doing is wrong. I do not think that's right. I think they know what they are doing, and they are doing it to hurt. Because what happens is, after battering you, he wants to follow you up where you've gone, and he wants to still hurt you. He'll say things like, I'll even go and take away all the children. Can we have
silence in the house, honorable members?
I'll go after her. I'll make sure she loses her job. I'll make sure I take away all the kids. They know what they're doing. They are following their egos. You see? They actually know what they're doing.
Did this actually happen to you as a person?
Yes, it did. It did.
Give them information.
Yeah. I said earlier, I'm a doctor. I work as a scientist at the Uganda Virus Research Institute. A lot of you would think that, a woman who has been to school, who is corporate, who is economically, empowered, cannot be battered. It happens. I was battered. And I can't say it's because of this. I did everything a woman should do at home. Yes, he paid bridal price. And in fact, when he was approached by my brother, he was asked, Mr. So-and-so, why have you done this, when I was being rushed to hospital? So he was like, didn't I pay for her bride price?
You see, bride price is a big problem in our society. Please give information.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm Honorable Peter Bahimuka from Raising Voices. I had an interaction with the survivor of domestic violence. I really appreciate your story because it touches us. But the problem also starts from where she believes. She believes in beating children. That is the beginning of some of the problems we encounter. So if you think it's okay to beat children and you beat your child, what do you think that child will do if it's a boy? They will think of beating their wives. So beating has never been okay, whether you're beating a child or a woman. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Doctor, you can go ahead and respond to that.
I strongly feel that my ex was battering because he was never punished for battering, punished for bullying. And one of the forms of punishing or parenting that we use here in our society is you get a cane. You don't beat your child as if you want to kill them. You get a stick and say, why am I beating you? I've done that to my boy, and it's like, okay, come, tell me, what have you done? Why am I punishing you? What did I tell you to do? And indeed, they won't do it again. I mean, you are not teaching them to pay.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor. You know, spare a rod and spoil a child.
Yeah.
Some bit of discipline, I think, but not, you know, corporate.
Not battering, not violence.
Let's go for a short break, and when we come back, we shall discuss what are the authorities doing to stop domestic violence in our communities. Are the police doing enough? Are people reporting to police stations, or they're keeping quiet? Welcome back. You are still watching People's Parliament, a platform that gives you an opportunity to air out your issues. And when we went for a break, we were discussing, are the authorities doing enough in the communities to stop domestic violence? Afande, are you implementing the laws? There is Domestic Violence Act already in place. What is police doing to ensure that domestic violence stops in our communities?
Oh, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm very happy to be part of this parliament today. My name is Polly Damaye, Senior Superintendent of Police, and I'm the Deputy PRO. I'm very happy to see all you members of parliament.
You are now a honorable member of this parliament.
Thank you, and I hope permanently so now. Thank you. I really would like to agree with you that there is domestic violence amongst us, and I'm really sorry that very many of us are victims to domestic violences. It's true that the police is spearheading the fight against domestic violences, but we have partners that we work with, like Mufumi and other organizations. And right now, we are going out to the public. For example, the police now, community policing, is moving out to the people to tell them about different issues affecting them. The first week of December is going to be a week where we'll be interacting with people face to face, asking them about issues affecting them, including domestic violences. However, I would like to also agree with you that not much is being done by all authorities, because I know police is trying to do what they should do, but LC1 chairpersons are authorities, LC5 chairpersons are authorities, members of parliament.
What are the challenges that you're facing in implementing the law?
That's one of the things I'm talking about. We need to all come out and speak about this particular thing. It's domestic violence. It doesn't stop at beating police women or policemen alone. It affects everybody. And so if you're a member of public and you think this issue is affecting you, come out openly like the doctor has done. I really am pleased with you. I would like everybody to come out and speak about it. There are some people who came out and spoke about it, like the former vice president, and people shunned her down and thought that she was simply talking about her own issues in the home. But domestic violence is something that is coming out and killing people.
People have complained that when they bring their cases to the police stations, the police officers, not you in particular, connive with the people to throw away the cases. Is that right? You have been working with the police. Is real police doing enough in the communities to help the people who are the victims of domestic violence?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Like the police officer said, you know, we've had great partnerships with the police, and they've helped us in execution of a lot of our work and putting perpetrators behind bars. But I think we could do better. And the reason why I think most people do not report cases to the police is because when they get there, they're re-victimized. They're actually blamed
by the police,
by the police or people that work there. I have experienced it firsthand. 2 weeks ago in Tororo, we had gone with a girl, a 16-year-old, that had been defiled. And right before she recorded her statement, a police officer uttered, if you knew you were young, why did you take yourself there? As if they do not know that as a minor, you cannot give consent, you can't give informed choices.
So yes, just information for you to know that actually, even if at the headquarters you think you're doing enough, but down at the grassroots, in the communities, people are suffering.
I agree with everybody.
The work that you do at the headquarters really runs down to the grassroots.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's why when we were celebrating 107 years, we put amongst the 10-point programs that we have to do, rectification campaign. So much has gone down wrong. People have sold police bond, okay? People have asked money for traffic services, for all the services. And we are saying, no, we can't continue like that. The police has come out open and said, this is what is happening. this is what our personnel are doing, and we are fighting it. But we can't fight this alone. If, for example, the man is brought into custody, sometimes we arrest the man, and the next day the woman comes and says, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to take my husband to court, okay? And then what are we supposed to do? Because, when we take you, you're going to go there and you're not going to give a statement, and the man will be set scot-free, okay? So we are saying that let's partner and fight domestic violence. If one...
What's the problem?
Information to me.
Please.
The information I would like to give the colleague. You see, it's now coming almost 30 years.
Yes.
And all we hear is futuristic propositions. Celebrations of 100 plus years the other day.
Yes.
You've been around.
Yes.
And domestic violence has been prevailing for some time.
More than 100 years.
Yes. So what have you been doing? You're always saying in future we plan to do this. Now we have this. Now we're going to do this. No, we want you to tell us what have you been doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. Just in half a minute, please, come back.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Member of Parliament. But somebody must start somewhere, and I think the police is starting somewhere.
100 years down the road.
Yes, we did wrong. We did wrong. We did some right, and we are saying that we did wrong in that area. Some people didn't do their part, but also we can't stand alone and think that we will excel. We can't. Let everybody do their part, and let police stand out and say we are not going to do our part, and then you will accuse us. Okay. But we want to partner. We have come on and said, let everybody partner with us, give us information. We are enrolling a lot of crime preventers because we believe that in the families there are crime preventers.
Out, we'll come back to give
Thank you very much.
What happens in those communities? At least you have worked with the communities in the villages. What happens? What happens? How bad is this?
Well, the situation is pretty dire, but I think our biggest obstacle is that the numbers that are usually released, the statistics never really tell the true story because most people don't report, and we can't measure the number of people that cannot report. But from in just a couple of weeks, we've had to deal with about 4 cases of girl children that have come to us with a myriad of problems. And I'm pretty sure you've read in the press too, most recently a mother who torched her child's private parts. And I think really quickly, you had spoken earlier about why do people do this? Why would someone burn their own child? And I think it goes back to what Honorable Tina Musuya said earlier, which is really about power. A parent feels as this is my child, I can do whatever I want with them. This is my wife, I paid bride price for them, so I can do whatever I want with them. But if someone has no power relationship over you, no power over you, they really can't do anything.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, you are a member of Parliament. We just want to know, you have passed a number of laws to cap down the domestic violence in our communities. Where do you think, what is lacking? Is the police implementing? What are those laws you have passed? And what has the police done?
We have passed, like you stated, the Domestic Violence Act, the Female Genital Mutilations Act, the Trafficking in Persons Act. Those are the acts that are supposed to deal with this vice. At the moment, I think what is the major problem which we are addressing as a parliament is that the first instance for reporting is the local council court, which has actually expired. It's illegal, and some of them are not well constituted. That is one.
But why do you think these laws are not being implemented? What is the problem?
The problem first is that we have moved as women parliamentarians in police posts in the rural areas, and sometimes you don't even find the act with the police in the police station.
They don't know about it.
So the first issue that we need to do is that the police posts the police officers need to know and understand and believe in fighting the vice, because they are the first court of instance. The second problem, which as women parliamentarians we have discovered, is that investigation to try is very weak, because one, you have to take the person in the case of defilement or rape to the hospital. The person has to be examined, fill police form 3, and then this is brought back. A person will be asked to give transport to go to the hospital. In the hospital, the doctor will ask for money to fill the form. So a local person will not afford. They will come to the police will say, we don't have a paper. Then they said, give us transport. The person will just go back. So those are really the structural problem that are affecting the
She wants to
implementation.
give information, Honorable Member. Please
Yes.
take the microphone and give information.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm Honorable Mastula, a grassroots woman from Chevano, Chisalo, that is Kawempe Division.
Yes.
If the policeman doesn't understand the laws, we've heard about like 3 laws she's mentioning. What about me, a grassroots woman who have never heard about the law? How will I report the case? We have been taught by civil society organization about these things. We know how to handle. But what about the women parliamentarians? What are you giving us as grassroots women? We don't know. How can we report? If we report, where do we go? So the problem is coming all along in the communities that women there don't understand the laws. They don't know the justice institutions. How do you, if they report, they also get those challenges of transportation and what? We are recommending the government to go down, leave alone your parliament offices and come down, tell us what is all about the laws, and we all understand.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member, for that information. You have been given a challenge. You are sitting in the air-conditioned offices in Parliament, and you are leaving this woman alone. The people who vote for you,
Yes,
Honorable Member.
and I think that was the first I mentioned here before, is that we are carrying sensitization. And one Honorable Member challenged that is our role. I am now glad that you realize that we need to conduct sensitization, and as women parliamentarians, we have produced leaflets which we are translating into local languages, and women parliamentarians, every time they go to their constituency, that is part of the sensitization that they are conducting, telling members where to go.
Your time is out. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you,
What is your
Honorable
say?
Speaker. Madam Speaker, you posed the question that we all need to challenge ourselves and understand. What is happening with the implementation of the laws that we have enacted? Have we thought about what implementation means? Honorable Speaker of Parliament, we are glad that government is doing something to implement the laws. Civil society organizations have done a lot, and this is what we have done. We have raised awareness about the laws. That's part of implementation. For the Domestic Violence Act, Ministry of Gender, together with civil society organizations and other institutions, they came on board and drafted what we call the domestic violence regulations to guide implementation and enforcement of the Domestic Violence Act. So many things need to happen, including building the capacity of duty bearers, honorable members of Parliament. But I don't think, as honorable members of Parliament,
what do you think is the role of the local leaders in the communities? Are they doing enough?
Some local leaders have done that to sensitize the communities about the Domestic Violence Act. But I'm challenging our honorable members of Parliament here to say, even where we need local leaders, government and different bodies to sensitize the public about the Domestic Violence Act, we need one thing which you're not talking about. Where is money to implement all these laws? I think if we have the money, and it is our role as honorable members of Parliament to ensure that we see all these ministries that are responsible to implement the Domestic Violence Act allocate specific funds to implementation of the Domestic Violence Act.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time is out. We should be having a burning issue. Could you please air out your...
Yes, Honorable Speaker. My burning issue is just, I need to give some statistics. Picking from where we're asking a question, what is going on with the cases that are happening in the police? We have very clear statistics that show that, for example, out of the 9,000 cases that are reported to police of defilement, only 4,000 perpetrators will be arrested. My question is, what happens to the rest of the perpetrators? But also,
what happens? Why do they go free?
What happens? First of all, they are not arrested. Those 4,000 are not arrested. And that means that there is insufficiency in the system. The system is not functioning properly. And it goes back to what my colleague, Honorable Member, just said. What is the cost of dealing with gender-based violence, specifically domestic violence? What is the cost? We need to answer that question. For example, to this country, we lose 77 billion shillings every year dealing with domestic violence. And out of that, you'll notice that at least individuals are spending 21 billion, individuals, in terms of transport, in terms of how much they are going to court and coming back, how much they are giving to police, how much they are giving to hospitals. That is very costly. But also the time the person spends in the process is that costly. And it takes us to one thing. How much resources can government allocate to each of the key sectors? We can name the sectors. Health is very critical. How much resources are specifically allocated to deal with cases of violence, just as a health issue? How much is allocated to social sector? Education. So it goes back to what my honorable member said. Everyone has a role to play in addressing gender-based violence. Everyone has a role to play.
What is the way forward, honorable member?
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Just in 2 minutes.
We need to have the renewal of mandate of LC1. That is the community policing.
Thank you, honorable member, for that forward. Please.
If you want to change a community, you need to start with the family. The family is the smallest unity in a community. If you are raising men who are going to batter women, if we are raising women who are going to quarrel and do everything bad in the society, then we will continue having this one. Even the police again will celebrate another 200 years when we are still talking about domestic violence.
I am sure we cannot exhaust the problem of domestic violence. It has affected each one of us, only that we don't say it out. Afande, honorable member from the police force, what can we do as a country to put a stop to domestic violence?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'll submit. Very many people have spoken, and we will all agree that nobody can beat a community. All of us, when we are together, we can fight crime. And the police cannot provide security completely because we are only a secondary security provider for you. You must provide your own security at the beginning. If you decide to come out of your house and you leave your doors open, the police will not know that your door is open. So if this man has been observing you, will enter the house. So we are saying that if you can look out for yourself and look out for your neighbor and look out for your children, teach them the right things, work together with the different charity organizations in your area, the churches, teach your children the morals so that they will grow up as individuals who are well built and who are ready and willing to live in a family without committing such crimes. Now the police will come in when we are alerted that there is this problem in this family and will come up to arrest and detain. But the police is saying no.
What are you going to do?
We want to work together with the people
who have not done their job as the police force.
Yes.
How are you going to handle that situation?
Of course, the police is like any other family. If you commit a crime, you're handled as somebody who's committed a crime. And the parliament is there to ensure that we do that. That's the reason they enact laws that govern the police as well. We have the Professional Standards Unit, which looks out for every police personnel that behaves in a manner that contravenes the Police Act and the Penal Code Act. So please go there and report them. And if you, the first person who made the police, the person who made the police from Britain.
Do you have the money to implement these laws? Do you have the money as the police force?
We understand that Uganda is a developing country, so we'll not demand very much from the coffers. But we are saying, if we can get money that will support us to do this, and that money must be utilized for that purpose, okay? And somebody must watch out so that this money is utilized for that purpose. Thank you very much.
Please, our way forward as we wind up. But what can we do?
Madam Speaker, one big magic bullet. Because it's at epidemic levels, it's a national problem, government must own up big. And when I say own up big, we need funds to implement these laws. Because all the law enforcement, whether it's LCs, police, judiciary, everything, they need money to train their officers.
Thank you so much. She should be having a very burning issue. Please, what is your burning issue? In just 1.5 minutes, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My way forward, as community, we should have continuous sensitization, especially on laws passed by the Parliament, because we don't know. We just hear of them, but we don't know.
But who is responsible for sensitization?
Human Rights Commission.
Are they doing anything, Human Rights Commission?
This goes to my members of Parliament who are here. As Parliament, you should also have thought of the community that you are representing.
Have you had
consider them as you do your budgets? Please have a vote for the communities on the ground, especially on these matters concerning gender-based violence.
Thank you. Thank you. You have heard? Yes? Way forward.
Way forward is the communities, as communities, we need to own up. Let us make domestic violence, gender-based violence, everyone's issue. It's not something that is in private, that I shouldn't mind if the other girl has been defiled in the other neighborhood. She's not my child. Tomorrow, it will be your child. Let us own up. Let us be whistleblowers in our communities. It's time to own up. That's the way forward. And echoing what has been said about the police, that yes, we are a developing country, we won't ask for funds, but then if you don't have the funds, you will not do what you're supposed to do. We shall come to you that we need someone to be arrested, and you will tell us, we don't have fuel.
I call upon all men in this country to come up and fight against this issue, because these are our daughters, these are our sisters, these are our mothers. We cannot lure it out, because these girls, these women are part of us. Without them, we cannot stay. Yeah. To be sure.
Thank you for that point, Honorable Member, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Maggie has something to say.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A lot has been said, but I think what we are focusing on right now is like the short-term plan. But we need long-term plans also. We have people in research, people doing science, people doing investigations or research, I can call it. We can approach those bodies. We can inject some funds in research and really grind the problem and really get to the the grassroots. What causes domestic violence? Is it parenting? Is it behavior? Is it delinquency? Is it a culture? And when you get down to that, then we can find the long-term solutions. But of course, we need the short-term solutions to arrest the situation, because it's getting worse every day.
Thank you, thank you. Because of time constraints, this is a very interesting topic that we cannot exhaust. But please protect your family, protect your wife, protect your husband, your children. Teachers, please don't beat children. This is People's Parliament. I am Agnes Nandutu, the Speaker of People's Parliament, and I adjourn this House until next time.